Where do we go from here? What's next for the GOP, for the Republican Party faithful, the base, and everything around it, everyone in between? Let's get to our friend Rob Smith now. He is a veteran, an author, and contributor to The First TV. Rob, how are you feeling today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How about yourself?
I mean, I'm disappointed for the country,
Yeah,
but I also understand that we're going to get through this. It'll be all right. I hate the phrase "it's not the end of the world," but it really isn't. But
no.
let's get more constructive than that. I mean, first off, what were your feelings about this presidency on as its last day has now happened? I mean, it is now ex-President Trump.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about the 4 years? I feel like we should start to have a conversation about what really happened here, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So look, I did an episode of my podcast at lunches this week. It's basically called "We All Need to End Our Obsession with President Trump," and I think that how we move forward as a GOP, and when we think about really what this administration was in the past 4 years, there have been a lot of amazing things that happened. We got the best economy that at one point the world had ever seen. We had criminal justice reform. We had cutting through red tape. We had basically a vaccine for a deadly virus that crippled the world in less than a year. Like these are some really, really amazing things. And I think that as we look back at this presidency, we can see some really great things that happened in terms of policies. Like the policies were great. In terms of arguing with no-name reporters, in terms of some of the tweets, in terms of some of the kind of nonstop controversies. I think that we all got a little over that towards the end. But I think that this is not so much. I think President Trump had a lot to do with it. But it was also, I mean, he was just frustrated by battling a media industry and entertainment industry. So many people were against him. And I think that's where all of that stuff came from. But I think in order for us to move forward as conservatives, as a Republican Party, I think that a lot of us have to get over this obsession with President Trump. And by that, I mean to make one person be the entirety of all of our political hopes or all of our political dreams or basically the political future of the Republican Party is very short sighted. I think that a very strong thing that he said during his farewell address was that we built this movement. He kept on saying we. And I thought that was very strategic and that was amazing because it is going to be up to we the people, whether you're a part of the MAGA movement, whether you're just a mainstream conservative, whether you're an independent or libertarian who just so happens to be attracted to conservative policies. It's going to be up to us to take the mantle from here on out. And I think that this now official Biden presidency is going to give a lot of us opportunities to say, look, guys, this is what you wanted, and we are going to show you why these policies don't work. Because unfortunately, we are going to see over the next 4 years in real time why left Democratic policies do not work.
Rob, where do you come down on the debate over whether Biden is going to be a moderating force within the Democratic Party? I don't think it's fair to call him a moderate because the Democrat Party is not in any way a centrist party anymore. But do you think that he'll be because essentially he got elected because he didn't frighten certain voters who would be
Yeah.
uncomfortable voting for, say, an open socialist, right? That was really the pitch. He's been around forever, and so he was non-threatening in a sense. But there is a very radical left, not fringe, but now I think we could say vanguard in the Democrat Party. Do you think that they're going to have Joe Biden as a moderating influence on their desires, or is he just going to be a pass-through for what they want, essentially?
Look, I think he's going to be a pass through for what they want. And I think that he's not going to stop any of this rhetoric that's coming from these far left. And I can't even say far left media personalities or whatever, because these are congressmen and women that are saying some pretty insane things. Joe Biden's not going to stop them. He's not going to be a moderating force to this because what it is that the left flank of the party sees blood in the water. He may not repeat some of the stuff, but he's not going to stop them from saying it. And I don't think that he's going to be a very moderating force at all. I think that there are a lot of people that get a lot of attention via what they say on Twitter and what they say on social media. Look at AOC, look at Cori Bush, look at Jamal Bowman, look at all of these people. They're very, very far left. And Joe Biden is a pretty weak leader. As a matter of fact, he failed the first test as a leader of the Democrat Party in order to moderate people when he failed to really speak up forcefully about the riots that left America in flames over the past summer that were started by people on the left and that were cheerleaded by the now Vice President Kamala Harris. So is he going to be a moderating force? No, I just absolutely not. He's too weak of a leader to be a moderating force.
We're speaking to Rob Smith. He is a veteran author and First TV contributor. Rob, you were somebody who I think perhaps celebrated MAGA culture, is fair to say, right? I mean, you never walked away from that. You were very popular among the MAGA folks out there.
Yeah.
And what do you know? One thing that I will say about Trump that I felt never really got enough attention was that there were young people. There were young, there were people in their 20s and 30s who felt like, they could go and wear a MAGA hat and that there was a culture around Trump. There was a kind of political, a political celebration of day-to-day life that he was a part of. Do you think that continues in any way? I mean, because the Republican Party brand before him was much more, old, stodgy, white males who play golf and, work in corporate jobs, right? That's the stereotype, or there's another one for different parts of the country, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's kind of this, you look at the leadership, Bush and Cheney and McCain and Romney. These are not guys that inspire memes in a positive way. Do you think that that continues now with Trump, even though he's not in office?
I really do think that it continues with the MAGA movement, because you have to look at the types of people that were brought into this. People like me, and I make no bones about the fact that I've obviously risen to prominence in the past couple of years due to large part of my support for President Trump and sort of being embraced by the MAGA movement, which I will never turn my back on, because I know what it stands for and I believe in what it stands for. And I think that a lot of the people that have come to prominence that are a part of this movement, that are creators, people that are entertaining, people that can do different things. Like, I can, be here and speak to you about politics, then I can go do a TikTok challenge. And what Trump did was he brought this energy, and it's almost kind of like an entertainment culture-esque energy into the party. And I think that the challenge for the party right now, and this is what the Democrat Party is amazing at, partially because they have the backing of the entire, Hollywood media, music, and entertainment industry. But it behooves us as Republicans to say, okay, you've got, the old school mainstream, Republicans, the Romneys and all those. But then you've got those of us that are out here actually creating our own culture on social media, on the internet. Sometimes, people like me that pop back and forth between television. But you have to bring these things together and make them a unified movement. And I think that there is no candidate for president that's a Republican in the future, or there is no candidate for Congress in the future that does not go through the MAGA base. So I think that it's very important to continue engaging that base.
How worried are you, Rob, about the wave of not just, I think it even will go beyond cancellation. I think we're going to see a public-private partnership of idea suppression, right? So it's one thing, cancellation is what happens to you for the wrong ideas. They're going to now go even further up the source, if you will. They're going to go further up the chain and prevent people from even being able to share these ideas. Oh, and if you try, you will be canceled. What do you see happening, and how do people like you and me and others listening to this prepare for that?
I think that, honestly, in my opinion, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And one critique that I do have of the administration is that there was ample opportunity to really do something about this, and it never happened. So that is a really big failing on the part of the outgoing administration. But I do think that it's going to get worse. How do we prepare for it? I mean, I personally always wanted to make sure that I'm out there in different places than Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Who knows how long those platforms will still be available to me. And I think that for the people who fear this cancel culture mob, who fear more suppression of ideas, what we have to do is we have to start leaning on the people that we've elected, the people that we will continue to put in office in the future, is to do something about this. Don't just talk about it, don't just tweet about it, actually do something about it. And we have to start calling out the people in power that are, being lobbied by Facebook, by Twitter, by Instagram, by all of these different places in order to kind of keep the status quo. So I don't think that a Republican is going to get elected congressman or even president in the future if they don't have a really strong stance against this kind of censorship and an idea about what to do about it. But I have to say, and I say this a lot on the Rob Smith is Problematic podcast as well, is that it's going to have to take sane voices on the left too. Even some liberals realize that this kind of suppression and this kind of clamping down on free speech is not good, because some of them realize that the pendulum can very easily shift in their way as well. So I think that it's going to take a lot of thinking people who really are advocates for free speech on the right and the left to come together and to fix this. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, these things are too big and they need to be broken up.
Now, we don't have control not only of the presidency, but of the House or the Senate. What do you think of calls to try to organize at the state and local level where possible to try to create, I guess you could say, bulwarks of liberty against the encroachment of the federal government where possible, where that's a lawful option, or also just to begin to create, we're starting to see outflow from blue areas, New York being one of them, down to Florida. You're seeing people leave California. A lot of them are conservatives, and maybe this great blue-red sorting that is going on right now, of which I may become a part at some point myself, to be honest with you, in the pretty near future, that this also raises opportunities.
It really does. And I really agree with the fact that people have to start, operating on the local level as well. I'm a defector. I left New York and I came down here to Florida. I'm in Florida. It's absolutely amazing. But what we really have to do is we have to make sure that when people are fleeing these blue states and coming to red states, that we are keeping these states red. And I think in absence of any kind of majority in the House, but I do think we'll get it back in 2022. But I really do think that we have to start thinking in terms of that. And I like this word that you use, this sort of like bulwark against what's the encroachment of the federal government, because me living in Florida with the great Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, I feel a part of the reason why I'm not as fatalistic as some other people is because I live in Florida and it is a great place to live. And I'm going to work to keep it a great place to live.
Right. There are still the genius of the founders is that we have a constitution that we know Democrats will try to shred at many opportunities, but we still have it, and we have states and state responsibilities. So there are options here to try to pursue a more, shall we say, capitalist and liberty-based future for individuals and for families out there who are listening to this while staying in the United States. I'm not advocating. I'm not some crybaby lib who's going to say we should all move to New Zealand or Canada or whatever. No, there are ways to stay here in this country. There is the fight, the political fight that's worth having. And I just wanted to know if you have some, what are your words of encouragement? This is a tough day for a lot of people, Rob. A lot of people listening to this are having a rough one. And I'm also I've been psychologically preparing for it, quite honestly, since I'd say a couple of weeks after the election, when I felt like these legal challenges were very remote in the probability of success. For a lot of other people, though, this really stings. What are what's your halftime coach speech for, there are better times ahead for America?
That said, there are better times ahead for America. But look, the thing about it is that when you love this country and you believe in this country, you got to love it and believe in it no matter what. And if you are somebody that's out there that's feeling discouraged or kind of like overwhelmed by all of this, I would say use this fire to think about how you can get involved to change things. The great thing about this MAGA movement is that so many people got involved that were not involved before. But think about how, if you're a conservative and you have conservative leaning principles or Republican principles or whatever, how you can get involved in the local level, how you can do things that are a little bit different. I know me personally, I'm involved in this way. I do a lot of political commentary, but I think that we have a cultural deficit with conservatives, and I'm focusing a little bit of my energy on doing culture stuff. So I think that we all have something to offer. Do not be defeated. Do not give up. Never, ever quit. Dust yourself off, lick your wounds, and think about your next steps towards positively impacting our great nation.
Rob Smith from the First TV. My man, always good to see you. Better days ahead for both of us. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Buck.
Moving to the Biden administration, let me just bring up something that we really haven't had time to talk about over the past several months. Joe Biden, through all this chaos, of course, there have been many things that have been detrimental to a smooth start for the Biden administration. But one thing that Biden has had is cover, because the media has been chasing one story after another about Donald Trump, as we have from the start. And Joe Biden has not gotten the close look that most president-elects have gotten. We certainly remember Bill Clinton, for instance, started his administration in the rockiest of ways. This is something that Biden and his team are going to be noticing over the past the coming weeks. They are suddenly going to feel the hot glare of those Klieg lights that are being turned from Donald Trump now and going to be focusing squarely on them.
I mean, this is honestly the funniest thing Joe Scarborough said. I don't know, maybe ever. Yeah, all of a sudden now, yeah, Joe Biden's really going to be on the hot seat. Media's really going to be kicking the tires now. Oh, sure. Now that they foisted this guy on the American public, now that they suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. I mean, actively shut down a news organization, the New York Post, from being able to share true information going to a presidential candidate's fitness for office. Now that all that has happened, they're going to be like the really serious journos. Now they're going to say, "Oh, who is this Biden guy? Oh, maybe we should ask some questions." No, that's not going to happen. But they're going to say, see, this is the whole game with journalists. Oh, it's going to be tough. We don't want to have to be so tough on Joe, but, that's what's going to be happening here. No, it is not. They are going to be giving this guy the equivalent of a shiatsu massage, okay? They're going to be, Joe Biden is going to get the kid glove treatment like nothing else you've ever seen. We all know it. In fact, not only will they be refusing to criticize him, they will viciously attack any actual critics that emerge.
I just wanted to comment. I don't know if anyone else is struck by just seeing everyone masked, just the kind of public, sort of performance of responsible behavior. Even the Republicans are in masks. There's no longer that social pressure from Donald Trump to be maskless, to be sort of proudly maskless. That's pretty striking, at least for me to see.
Not wanting to wear a mask all the time, including outside, including alone, going for a hike by yourself in the woods, out on the street with no than 50 feet of you, is not about Trump, libs. I hope they will finally start to get this. It really isn't about Trump. Certainly not anymore. I still hate the mask mania. I still think they dramatically overstate what a mandate has done or would do for us. I know the Bidens now got 100 days of masking. We're already masking. We've been masking the whole time. Didn't stop the pandemic from reaching its biggest ever second wave of cases. Didn't stop it. That's a fact. And we have been masking, also a fact, in huge numbers all across the country for months. But see, now what are they going to do? Now they have to make actual arguments about things. I mean, they're going to try to suppress and avoid making arguments. But when they're unable to just shut down the opposition, hopefully they won't be entirely successful with that, they have to turn around and actually deal with facts here. They have to deal with the fact that it's not all about Trump. It was never. Despite what they think, the social pressure. No, I don't like wearing a mask because it's uncomfortable and in many cases it's useless, and because Dr. Fauci told us at the beginning of this pandemic that it would just make people feel better, but it was not a necessary public health measure. And that's when we thought the fatality rate would be even higher than it is. And I have not forgotten that. And this after the fact justification of, I didn't want people to take up all the N95, so go and watch that interview and tell me if you think that's what Fauci. He's a great actor if that's what he was doing. Oh, like we're all such idiots. We're all supposed to believe that. Sure. It's unreal. Unreal. But, I had a little reminder yesterday, a little reminder lesson, and it hits close to home. My father, who is 74, he's a great dad. My dad's the greatest, and he went to go get the vaccine. And the whole thing it's been such an ordeal. My whole family's been pitching in. You got to go online. This is all New York. This is New York City, IT and health department and the whole thing. It's a mess, and they've had months and months. They've basically had a year to prepare for this. All right. This isn't like we asked them to set up some amazing vaccination program or plan in 30 days. And I know some states are better than others. And I think that a lot of you who live in more sane, more open states, it's hard for you to appreciate what your fellow conservatives in New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, what we've gone through in Washington State and Oregon. I mean, the stuff that we've been put through by our elected officials and just the day-to-day insanity and the pressures that we've been under, it's madness. It's absolute madness. And it's really worn us down. And I know you'd say, well, you got to leave those states. We're working on it. It takes time. You got jobs, you got family, but no, I think the great exodus from blue states for people that want to live a more sane existence, I think the momentum is unstoppable now. You're going to stick around for the next major disaster so you can have Newsom and Cuomo and these other idiots in charge of you? I don't think so. Well, my dad yesterday was in line. He had to go to in Staten Island, which is one of the 5 boroughs here in New York. He had to go to Staten Island because he couldn't get an appointment anywhere near where he lives. So, that's about, it depends. The New York traffic changes things dramatically. There's not that much traffic now, but it's about a 40-minute haul together. So not that bad, but it's in a car. You got to drive 30 or 40 minutes. And so he gets there, and it's almost all senior citizens, he says, in the line. An enormous line at this vaccination site. He gets there 45 minutes early. This is all set up this is all Democrats. This is blue state in action here, friends. All right, there's no Republicans in the mix. This is the New York City and New York State health apparatus has been handed vaccines and told, go distribute these to people. And they've had a lot of time and a lot of ability to prepare for this. So he's in a huge line and, of course, socially distanced. And they're outside. It's like 33, 34 degrees yesterday in New York City while this is. So you've got senior citizens. My dad's a robust and handsome fellow with a great head of hair. But, there are some senior citizens who are out there who are a little more frail. They got a walker. And they're in their 80s or their 90s. And they're out there freezing their butts off outside because, you can't be inside. That's too. We couldn't figure out a way to make this so that at least you could socially distance inside with masks on and wait for your vaccine. No, that can't be allowed, right? And do the temperature checks. I always want to ask, do these things actually work in any meaningful way? Because whenever it comes down to it, they just sort of go back to we can't trust it. So even if you socially distance and mask and temperature check and wash your hands before you go in, let's say, for this to a facility, they'll do vaccinations. You're still at too high a risk. So you got to wait outside and freeze your butt off. So my dad gets there. He's 45 minutes early. My mom is waiting in the car for him. And she doesn't qualify for the vaccine yet because she's a bit younger than that. She's in her 60s, so she doesn't qualify. You got to be over 65. And he's waiting, and he gets there. He's right on time. And he waits before anyone even says anything. He's in this line. Just imagine standing. There's no chairs. There's no nothing. These are people in their 70s and their 80s. And, some in their late 60s, obviously. And they're standing in line. He says for 2 hours, the line barely moves. This is getting people shots. You have to wait. I mean, my whole family was pitching in, going online, trying to see where we could go, how you get the appointment. You have to wait to do that. And then you get there, you have your appointment time, you show up, you're in the system, and you're standing outside in the freezing cold for 2 hours without a line even moving? And remember, New York, as of yesterday, was officially saying, Mayor Bill de Blasio said that New York City might run out of COVID vaccine as soon as Thursday. Entirely. The supply might be gone by Thursday. Now, who knows? I haven't been able to check on this one today at the specific site if this has happened anywhere yet. But there have been instances where people have waited in line and then they're told, sorry, we're all out of vaccine. So you're waiting in line for 2 hours. No one's really telling you anything. And then they make the decision, that the city bureaucrats make the decision to go down and they start saying, well, let's say that we're at now 5 p.m. Eastern time, or, we're around that period. And they say, well, who had a 3 o'clock appointment? And people at the back of the line who got there very late, some of them are saying, well, I had a 3 o'clock appointment, but they're behind all the people who had the 4 o'clock appointment, and it's already 5 o'clock. Guess what they do? Okay, well, the 3 o'clocks, we're going to move you. You're now going right now. You're at the front of the line. Oh, so you're waiting there in line for no reason because it's not really a line. They just don't know what they're doing, and now they're going to take people that just arrived but are 3 hours or 2 hours late for their appointment. You can imagine how that went over with the gathered senior citizens, socially distanced, masked up in 30-degree weather. Did not go over well. And then they came up, and I remember my mom actually was the one who gave me the call. She said they just came out. He's been in line for 2 hours, and they said it's going to be. They came out and told them it was dark at this point, right? The sun's already down, so it's now nighttime. Standing outside in the dark, basically, at this center in Staten Island where they're giving these vaccines out. So it's now getting colder, and they come out and they say to his section of the line, he says there are hundreds and hundreds of people in the line, it's going to be at least 2 more hours. Now, I got to ask you, because people are, it's funny when I shared this, I mean, it's not funny, but I mean, it's when I share this on Twitter, people are saying, you should stay if it's 12 hours. Really? Really? Would you stand in a line run by the Democrat city government of New York for 12 hours to get a vaccine for a virus that has been around for over a year that other people are already getting vaccinated for? And even if you get it, even if you're in the high-risk category, your odds are 97% of being okay. Not 99. It's like 97 out of 100 will survive, even in the higher risk category. Would you stay at 12? How about 24 hours? What about passing out? When is it too much? And it's one of these things where I also know people in New York. I know people in New York who have been able to get appointments for the COVID-19 vaccine easily, and they just show up at a nice, calm place, and they get their shot. But and they're in their 20s and 30s, but they're part of the teachers union. Oh, okay. And do you think that those teachers that I know who have gotten shots for the vaccine ahead of people like my parents who are at an age where they are in the risk category, do you think that those teachers are back in the classroom in all cases? As soon as they get that vaccine, all right, you're now a classroom. No, there's still Zoom teaching. That's on so many levels important for you to know this, because we are ruled by morons. You need to remember that. The people that are making these decisions are not impressive. They're not very smart, and they don't really care. There's no real accountability. If you're standing in that line for 4 hours and you get to the end of it and they say, oh, sorry, we actually gave your vaccine to somebody else, or we're out, or, oh, no, we had a different name on the list. What do you think your recourse is? Nothing. Can't go to the other city vaccine place down the street, right? It's not like a restaurant. What's your recourse? You have none. It's like a little taste of dealing with the Soviet Union here in New York. And I'm sure there's similar stories like this in other places across the country, and not just in blue states, mind you. Bureaucracy is inefficient because the people who are bureaucrats generally don't care. Not enough to be excellent, not enough to go the extra mile and hold themselves accountable. None of that stuff. They'll do the minimum. Bureaucrats do the minimum. There are exceptions to this. You don't have to send me an email telling me about your Uncle Morty, who was like the best transit worker in the history of the world, driving the bus every day. I know there are people that go the extra mile. There are people that do that in everything. But the culture of bureaucracies in general is the minimum and mediocrity. And this is why you don't want government in control of your life. This is why you don't want government making decisions for you. And that's one part of this. The other part is, how stupid are the people making these determinations at the top level now? I'm not talking about the low-level bureaucrats. The top level, the Cuomos, the de Blasios, the Newsoms, the Gretchen Whitmers in Michigan, I forget the name of the governor in Oregon off the top of my head, but, that governor's an idiot too, right? I mean, the governor's all out there. The leadership in places like Washington State and Colorado. How dumb are they when it comes to the way this vaccine is being implemented? The speed with which this is being done. They had so much time to prepare for this. They had ample resources. They can't do it. And look at some of the decision making. Now, New York is uniquely awful in this sense. There is no justification for giving teachers who are in their 30s vaccines before people who are senior citizens, except the teachers' unions demanded it and city government bent the knee. We got to protect our teachers. Yeah, you got to protect your teachers who are senior citizens, no doubt. How many of them are there? They retire, so very few. You just got to protect senior citizens, period. But nope, Democrat Party is, as you know, completely owned by teachers' unions in major cities across the country. So they're not going to do anything other than make them happy. So 35-year-olds and 25-year-olds get to show up easily at a place approved by the teachers union. They get their shot. They're good to go. While last night, my father among them, hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 or two, senior citizens froze their butts off for hours and hours and hours, and some of them didn't even end up getting vaccine. That's the government in action. That's the government that the Biden-Harris team wants to put in charge of all aspects of your life.
New Yorkers deserve and demand fairness. My position as governor is very simple. I represent the people of the state of New York. That's my whole job description. I'm here to represent them and to fight for them. And they have been abused by Washington for 4 years. And it has to stop. And it has to stop now. And all we want is what's fair. I said that there are two options. Worst case scenario, fair funding, and one caveat. The caveat is, if Washington doesn't provide the New York State with our fair share of funding, we're going to pursue litigation. Because I cannot in good faith represent the people of this state and know that they are being harmed and know that they're being treated unfairly and not do everything within my power to try to do what is right by New York.
Maybe get vaccines into the arms of senior citizens faster, you idiot. Maybe don't send people who are COVID positive, who are seniors, back into nursing homes to infect others in large numbers, jackass. No, but instead we've got Cuomo here giving the usual thing. Just all this guy focuses on is the optics and the politics. What is this going to do for him? How will this play in the media? What will it do for him in the polls? New York has been a cautionary tale during COVID. Top to bottom, everything about our response, the under preparation, the overreaction, the extended lockdowns, the moving goalposts. Same thing in California. Same thing in a lot of states. A lot of states. But they're going to fight like crazy to prevent people from really seeing what happened and holding them fully accountable for all of this. Governor Cuomo is going to have his hands full because the record that he's set forth is such an abomination. But we'll have to see if, Democrats in this state they still like him. His numbers have gone up. I don't know what's wrong with these people. I don't know what delusional world they're living in.